You can't trust anyone anymore. You can't trust anything anymore. And in fact, I'm going to give you 4 reasons why you can't trust anything you see, especially online. Stick around. Hey everyone, my name is Mitch. Welcome back to my channel. I use this channel to shout into the void and hopefully build my own trust muscle. If you're like me, the recent world events, the profiles of a certain person, and constant state of at least the country that I reside in, the United States, it's really hard to trust anything because a lot of the stuff that I thought was cuckoo bananas conspiracy theories are turning out to be fairly accurate. And because of that, I'm losing trust in institutions, trust in people, trust in just the things that I wanted out of my life, and even the trust in like the ability to get that stuff. Living in a world without trust sucks. I want to be able to trust people and I want to be able to trust things, but how can I? How can we when the world is like it is? So here are my 4 things why I think you can't trust anything, especially what we're seeing online. Number 1, trust is a two-way street. Trust is really easy to build when you are the only one who's trusting, right? If you're just trust the government, trust the influencers, trust the people who are giving you information online. You only have to trust them and they don't have to trust you because they don't know you. And that's the double-edged sword of a parasocial relationship, right? It is this feeling that I can trust a person, but I don't have to put in the effort of being a trustworthy person in order to receive that trust, because it is a two-way street, and that makes it so much more difficult to find lasting and sustainable trust because now, or it builds the doubt because really I trust them or I trust these things, but with all of the world around me that's starting to just crumble, then it really is easy to think, well, do I really know that person? Can I really trust what they're telling me? Because every other institution and every other sort of large-scale person that I've trusted before has inevitably let me down. So why should I trust this person? And then that sort of matriculates into our day-to-day lives because it's so much easier to trust on a one-way, then when we are asked and tasked to be trustworthy ourselves, it's so much more challenging because I don't have to put in the effort to be trustworthy if I only trust in a one-way. But trust is a two-way street. Number 2, trust takes time. Yes, you can have an instant connection with someone, and yes, you can meet someone really quickly who is in fact trustworthy. That's the exception that proves the rule, but trust takes time, and that's faith as well, and faith in something is, I don't know, trust and faith always kind of, I know they dance the same dance, but they do feel different to me. To put faith in something like religion or into the institution of religion, again, it's that weird two-way street because I trust them, but then the institution doesn't have to trust me in order for our relationship to continue. And then because of that, the time it takes for me to build that trust is really short. And when it takes a short time to build trust, that feels less foundational. Feels like a less sturdy foundation. It doesn't mean it's impossible. Obviously, you can meet people or have situations where it is instantaneously trustworthy, and then because of that, you can then go and build that trust from there. But the vast majority of situations, trust takes time. And in this world we live in that it feels so immediate and so instantaneous, it feels counterintuitive to the world that we live in because we don't have the trust of time. I don't trust that the world's going to last forever. In fact, I know it isn't, but I don't trust that it's going to last or sustain my life or my existence. I don't know if it's really going to falter or fail or collapse or any of that stuff, but I also don't know that it isn't, and that doubt really, really, really rubs up against trust in a not really enjoyable way. So trust takes time. Number 3, you don't know what you don't know, especially in this sort of parasocial, one-sided, one-way street of trust. There's so much control over the narrative and so much that can be retroactively spoken about that I can build trust or have trust in someone or something that is built on a lie. I watched the America's Next Top Model documentary and I was seething with anger because not only the egregiously horrible ways that the contestants were treated, but just the trust that they walked into this competition, having trust in this competition, and then that trust was broken because of the way the system is, or like treating people horribly because that's the way the industry is, but you're this super popular television show that had the capability and budget to change the industry or change how models exist in the industry, and you didn't. Like, I'm sorry, I don't. And then you are making this documentary now being like, well,
I can't believe I did all this stuff, and like, I think really I was kind of acting this way.
It's like, no, I don't believe that. I don't trust you. You behaved in that way. And people can change. People can grow. But there was just a sheer lack of accountability from a lot of the people in that documentary. Not the contestants. The contestants were just sharing their experience. But even then, to speak to my point here, it's like, but they're also just kind of communicating their own narrative and communicating their own perspective. And so that causes and creates this doubt in my head of, well, how much can I trust that? Which sucks. This then snowballs into a much larger issue of believing victims, believing people when they say dangerous and scary things have happened to them when you like, but because we are surrounded by so much distrust and it's so difficult to trust that I can perceive that. I mean, even I'm guilty of that myself, of not believing victims at first. Ultimately changing, and again, obviously, I'm feeling like crocodile tears or hypocritical because I'm bashing this documentary for not being accountable, but then I also did that, and at that time in my life, and that I was a kid when that show came out, and this is like a very influential TV show. I'm getting outside of myself because really the thing that's most disappointing about all of that is there was just people controlling their narrative of how they wanted to be perceived in this documentary, so that when it was next to how they were behaving, I didn't know which one to trust. And so because of that, then it was like, okay, I don't know who to trust. Which brings me to number 4. And I gotta tell you, this entire video is a lie. Got you. You trusted me. I'm kidding. Please, no, you're not an idiot. In fact, this is exactly my point 4. We cannot trust anything in this world, really. Institutions, people, ourselves. But just because we can't doesn't mean we shouldn't.
Yeah, baby!
We should trust. Trust is a great thing. Trust is the capacity we all have to propel our lives forward, because we can't do this alone. This being life, we are not solitary creatures. We are pack animals, hive mind, tribal, and part of building that tribe and building your cohort of a group of people is trust. And that foundational aspect of humanity and even society, really. Cities and governments and laws are all built on this foundation of trust, because it is this trust of, hey, you give us tax money and we give you services. Now, that's where it gets warped in connection to individuals and their own ideas and their own desires of what they want to do with that trust and with that money. But we should trust. We should trust people. And we should trust ourselves. Now, when it comes to media consumption, a healthy dose of skepticism goes a long way. Because yes, media controls narratives. People control their narratives that they share. Parasocial relationships are one-sided, and so you can only trust what someone presents to you. And if that is a false version of themselves or a sliver of the totality of who they are, you really can only trust that sliver of them. However, in our day-to-day lives, in our interactions with people, trust is necessary, because we can't do it alone. We have to build that trust. And if you don't trust anyone, start by trusting yourself. But if you like being alone, ask yourself if you trust yourself. Because if you like being alone and you trust yourself, hey, okay, that's fine. And it's not about romance, and it's not about relationships or anything like that, but it is about this idea of, can we trust people? Not all the time, duh. But should we trust people? The majority of the time, yes. Actions speak louder than words. You are your own expert when it comes to what your limits are on trusting people, and if people break your trust, how you choose to build or not build that trust back. As difficult as it is, because it is hard. It is hard to trust people. I know that. I still struggle with that. I'm not sitting here high and mighty being like, well, now that I have mastered my trust, I trust anyone and everyone, and that's why you should trust me and listen to me. There's always going to be doubt. It's always going to take time, and it's never going to be what you think it is. If it's exactly how you pictured it, that's I take concern with that. Maybe you're a master manifester, fantastic, or you're super good at setting yourself up. Awesome. Good for you. For the rest of us, life is so much more messy than that. And that's also a beautiful aspect of what makes trust so potent, because we can trust that life is wild and unpredictable on the micro in our one-to-one interactions. You'll never know. And so be open to trusting. Be skeptical. Skepticism is okay if it's connected to openness and curiosity. Curiosity and skepticism are two sides of the same coin. But that's all I got. As long as you can build trust in something outside of yourself and someone. And if it's the government, cool. If it's religion, cool. If it's your friends, great. If it's your family, awesome. And trust yourself, obviously. But that's all I got. Have a great time doing what you are doing right now. And oh my God, look behind you. Made you look. Bye.